If I were to recommend a game that would present a player with some kind of challenge, but something they could easily learn and master, and take something useful from the satisfaction of completing it, it would be Getting Over It with Benifatti. Getting Over It is one of those games known for its apparent difficulty and niche type of gameplay, but probably nothing else to a lot of people who know about it. It seems what many do not know is why. Benifatti grew up with difficult games, having a fascination for them and how they would drive players to improve, master, and eventually have true fun with the experience, especially if it were something implemented as a challenge by design, aimed at those who were willing to take it and have a lot to lose should they mess up. Unfortunately, that hasn't been a big part of a lot of more recent games. Often PC games might be criticized for the lack of a save, load, or checkpoint function. Fati said in an interview, "Whenever you see something that disproves a strongly held design orthodoxy, it's extremely exciting because it opens up new avenues for exploration, and Getting Over It is no exception." This game, as false as it may seem, is entirely skill-based, and as you climb this imaginary mountain, you're building the skill needed to, and with that, you feel a sense of progression. When you finally reach that summit, you get that satisfaction of having mastered the experience, persevered through it, and remained patient. When it comes to games like these where your knowledge and skill is crucial to survival and completion, you have to be willing to learn and master it. You have to put yourself forth if you want to enjoy the game for what it is, and it doesn't necessarily have to be hard for that to be the case. Benifatti describes Getting Over It in that sort of sense as part of his philosophy behind climbing this imaginary mountain.
The obstacles in sexy hiking are unyielding, and that makes the game uniquely frustrating. But I'm not sure Jazuo intended to make a frustrating game. The frustration is just essential to the act of climbing, and it's authentic to the process of building a game about climbing.
Now, I will say, this kind of thing has been talked about quite a bit. I'm writing this after seeing a lot of influential and informative videos from Under the Mail, whom I recommend checking out as he will better explain what I'm talking about when it comes to challenges at games. I was also looking back at those days when Getting Over It was first released, and only known for one thing, making streamers and YouTubers alike angry and frustrated, spawning a bunch of joke guides on Steam, people classifying it as a rage game before they'd even booted it up. And when you have a game that is notorious for being supposedly difficult, and these people with enough recognition playing it, it's bound to influence a lot of people's views on the game, as well as how they play and put themselves to completing it. Say if you heard someone bitching about the platforming or combat in any game in general, and then you go to play it yourself, what they said might stay in the back of your head and influence your opinion on the game and its mechanics, even as you find out for yourself. It might even negatively affect your play. Luckily, this didn't happen with me. But what's really upsetting is that I've known far too many people, ranging from friends to Twitch streamers, who played Getting Over It simply because they were either requested to, had lost a bet or something, or just wanted to play it because everybody else was. And a good number of them booted up the game with this bad mindset, knowing the game was hard and that they would end up raging and such. Yeah, and to my expectations, they didn't give themselves a chance. They didn't patiently learn and understand the mechanics of the game, made little to no progress, and gave up not long after. Let me quickly put it this way. If, before playing it, I were told all about how unpredictable and frustrating Doom could potentially be, with all the difficult custom content and the pseudo-random number generator playing a huge factor in the game's combat, I probably wouldn't have liked Doom at all and wouldn't have been as into it as I have been this past year. To put it even shorter, we can't form our own opinions based off of others' experiences. So with that said, my first encounter with Getting Over It was somewhere in early 2018. A friend informed me of Markiplier's playthrough on it, and I watched it for myself. It was entertaining, of course, but I had never seen anything like this game before. I was curious and I wanted to play it for myself, see if it was really as bad as people advertised it to be. The game didn't seem unfair or punishing in any way. It seemed like it was all dependent on the player's actions. So I bought the game on Steam and played it for myself, 60 plus times since. Of course, there were bouts of frustration and struggle involved my first time around, especially with the Devil's Chimney in Orange Hell, but I persevered. I found ways to move the hammer and tighten open areas alike and clear those parts of the mountain. There was a sense of progression keeping me going. I was learning how to get through all this. The satisfaction of the accomplishment to be had should I put myself to the task of overcoming these obstacles was also there waiting for me. And eventually, I completed it, and I felt like I had learned something from it. I had overcome a different flavor of frustration. I had learned to hike. Benefati touches on this subject throughout the ascent, but it is often overlooked by players. As he also said in the interview, if you feel as though progress can be taken away and you might have to do it again, that adds a sense of importance and high stakes that really transforms how you play the game. So, some people will rush every obstacle, some will take their time. Plenty of the walls, rocks, and furniture you climb and getting over it can be taken on in many different ways. It's all about getting a feel for that hammer, getting accustomed to it, learning when and where to take things fast or slow.
Every time I land, I'm trying to fight that movement when it automatically returns to the center.
And those minute-long speedruns you see on this game, that's from hours, perhaps days, even years of practice and perseverance, often from people who are probably confident going into the game in the first place. Getting over it, I believe, teaches you how to be a dedicated player, and it also trusts you in doing so. There are no checkpoints, and the obstacles are placed in an uneven difficulty curve at times, but the amount of progression you make and the suspense of losing it all increases as you go, making the game harder in a more natural fashion. Benefati hit the nail on the head with that concept. So, the first or next time you boot up Getting Over It, be sure to take into consideration what the creator was going for. Try not to pay attention to what others think. Instead, I recommend paying attention to Bennett's dialogue. But more importantly, and this goes for any challenge you might face in your life, just be patient with yourself. Be willing to figure out and overcome the obstacles laid out in front of you. Of course, there goes the popular saying, no pain, no gain. But the combination of frustration and the learning curve this game provides is a feast for the mind. If you want to experience, complete, and even start enjoying Getting Over It, you'll have to dedicate yourself to learning how to play it. Take your time, don't rush it. Now for some people, they don't want to do that. The game doesn't adhere to what they want to play and enjoy, and that's alright. Everybody has their own playstyle and game preferences, but I believe Getting Over It is almost like your school days. Challenges are something we will face in our lives, and this game will educate you about defeating them and pushing your way through to the top, if you're willing to learn. Thank you very much for watching. If you're new to my channel, you might find that I don't do this kind of stuff very often. I just recently wanted to voice my thoughts and hopefully remind people that Getting Over It is more than just a rage game. Hopefully what I touched on here and can be applied to other games as well. For most people, enjoying games is the result of learning and mastering them. I recommend Getting Over It to everybody. I don't believe it was made to hurt someone. It was meant to teach you.